Well, we've seen these before, like in flooding situations or major tornadoes. The governor is essentially treating COVID-19 like a natural disaster, although it's one that is still evolving. This could involve the National Guard. It could involve moving money or supplies around in a hurry. But it starts with the governor urging people to limit large gatherings where person-to-person transmission is more likely. Now, the governor's peacetime emergency declaration that he signed today basically urges people to cancel meetings of 250 people or more, and even smaller gatherings should be scrapped if the venue isn't large enough to allow people to be 6 feet away from one another. One big exception to that would be public schools. The CDC and the state health department are still recommending that they aren't closed, that schools are not closed, because younger people are at lower risk of contracting coronavirus or becoming severely ill from it. And there's no evidence yet that closing schools affected or helped in any way in help to stop the spread of the virus in countries that were hit hard.
I know that this runs counter to the instinct that many of us have to protect our children and to see closing schools as a precaution. And given the concern that we all have about a new virus, I don't blame anyone for asking these tough questions.
A peacetime state of emergency will allow the state of Minnesota to respond more rapidly as issues evolve. I would ask you all to think of this as opening the toolbox. We're not taking a tool out of it as of today.
Now, the governor and Commissioner Malcolm say every effort's being made to get more test kits on the ground in Minnesota, but they acknowledge they must still restrict who gets tested. So far, as you heard mentioned earlier in this newscast, all 14 of those cases so far were travel-related, not community-spread versions. Now, the health commissioner said you should still feel free to leave your house, go to the store, go to the mall, go to airports, get around, do what you have to do, unless you're sick. Of course, if you're sick, they want you to stay home. Now, the legislature today stayed home. All of the committee members, all the committee meetings that were supposed to happen here at the Capitol were canceled today. The leaders are going to meet again on Sunday night to determine whether or not the legislature comes back on Monday. We'll have more coming up at 6. Back to you.